Hi everyone, it's Sunday evening here and I don't know what I'm doing painting. I promised myself all day that I was going to do this and I'm not going to rest this evening until I actually have it done. So, well, not half done anyway, the background I'm aiming to get done today and finish off tomorrow. So it's quite a limited palette actually for me and should be, I think, relatively straightforward. This is what we're going to be aiming to do, and it's, as you can quite clearly see because it's rather large, is a robin sitting on a fence. This wasn't the original robin from this picture. The original robin, I shouldn't have taped it down so well. Well, just take it from me, he was a bit, I don't know, he'd been around a bit too long, I think. He was a bit dowdy. So I've beefed him up with with this lovely picture of a robin. All of these birdie ones that are coming out now, they're all because I've been commissioned to do a painting with 12 different birds in. And some of them don't sit very easily together, so I'm having to really use the old grey cells to try and come up with some composition that will include everything from a penguin to a wren. I don't know how it's all going to work, but I've got an idea, so we're going ahead. So today I'm going to try and keep it loose really. It's just to familiarise myself with the robin, and because I'm doing that I might as well make it into a nice little picture. So I found this nice background, which is very, very loose, really loose. Fence posts, a bit clearer, definitely. I mean, what the focus has been on, I would say. So we do what we normally do. I've put a hinge of masking tape down there and I've transferred the image. I appreciate you probably can't see it terribly well, it's in yellow, but you can see bits that I've done, and I've actually done the whole thing. I might need to redo it after I've done the background because it's so loose I don't think I can stop exactly at the end of the bird sort of thing. But anyway, there we go. So let's have a look at the background and see what colours we've got in it. Well, obviously we've got a lot of leaves, greens and yellows and olivey sort of colours, but behind the leaves is this background of sort of grey blue, maybe the sky, maybe a building, could be anything, but it's very out of focus. So I think we need to put that on first, kind of all over really, and then we'll put the leaves on top of that. So what I'm planning to do is to use a little bit of blue. This is primary blue, Sennelier Abstract primary blue. I'm also going to use a little bit of neutral grey. I might need more of these, but I'm erring on this side of not putting too much out because I'm fed up wasting paint. And the Sennelier Abstract white. Probably need a little bit more of that, I'd say. So basically all we're going to do is just cover the canvas. That's always your first job with anything, is to get the canvas covered. And then when you go back to it and put details on, they slide on much more easily if you've already got paint. I'll tell you a little story about this canvas actually. It was purchased from our local pound shop. It's 8 by 10. It says it's triple gessoed, and by the feel of it I think they're right. It's canvas mounted on wood. It's got the keys with it, and I really can't see anything much wrong with it. I've given it a little light sandpaper and it feels okay to me. I mean, maybe when we paint with it it'll be patchy or something, I don't know, but for this particular one probably doesn't matter anyway. So let's get cracking. These brushes are actually wet anyway because I've been using them earlier today. I've been very industrious today. Well, not very industrious, but a bit industrious. Sunday after all. So I'm going to start with the blue and just get that onto our canvas really. Crisscross marks are good for coverage, and it really it doesn't matter if we sort of leave marks in the paint, because they're going to be covered over anyway with leaves. So I'll just move on to the grey now and do a patch of that. I don't think there's a sort of, it's blue at the top and grey at the bottom. They seem to be just all over the place, so I'll just do that then. I'll just make them all over the place. I'm going round the fence at this moment. Like I said, I'm not sure that when I come to do the leaves and things, I'll be able to maintain that boundary between this and the fence, but we'll see. I'll put some grey in down here. I'll say this canvas seems to be painting all right. Can't see anything wrong with it. I've worked on much worse canvases and paid much more for them, I can tell you. I'm getting decent lines down there. It's not, there's no bumpiness in there to throw me off my line. Oops, nearly painted the fence post. It does pay sometimes just to have a look and see where you are, because, my goodness, it is so easy to get lost in a painting. You think you know where you are, and then you look up and no. I was doing a live on Saturday night, and it was a back to basics one for beginners, to show them how easy it was to paint anything. And yeah, I had 4 colours to go from, because we weren't blending. We were doing it in different colour blocks. And I managed to pick up the wrong colour. So, it happens to us all. It's nothing that another coat of paint won't put right. And I think that's what you have to remember, really, with a lot of this. If it's horrible and you really don't like it, I'm just going to do this edge, because it's a gallery wrap, so it needs a bit of something on the edge. Thanks, Mr. Fix-It. Poor Mr. Fix-It has given up his Sunday evening for this, but I'm only going to do the background. Then I'll feel that I've done something. Felt like doing a live for this, actually, but then I chickened out a bit. But I might put this up on my Facebook page, I think, probably as soon as I've done it. I've had Susan Hole today begging for more work. She wants something to do. And we were going to put our new series, because we've finished the old barn now, we're going to put our new series up on Wednesday, but she's desperate for something to paint. So we've put that up tonight for her, and for anybody else who wants to paint it. It's great to see how you've all got on and how you've all progressed. It's not that long ago. I don't even know how long ago it is. I'll say 6 months, but I don't think it's that long since we started this group. And it was real beginners. Virtually everybody was a real beginner. And we did that series of 4 little paintings of flowers, and then we progressed to other things, and then we started the series and we did the Tuscan house, which was fairly simplistic. I mean, I made a bit of a meal of it, I must be honest, but it was fairly straightforward and anybody could really kind of follow it. And people did, and I was amazed. They really made a good job of it. And so from there, we went to something really quite complicated, which was the old barn. But people have been sending me pictures, and I'm just, it's incredible. It's incredible how far people have come. I wish you would all have the courage to post your pictures of the old barn, because it gives other people, confidence to see how far people have come, or to look at something and think, well, Mine's as good as that. Let me post mine too. I've got no choice. I've got to post mine. I really enjoyed the old barn. I really, really enjoyed it, and I think you'll enjoy the Bodrum house. It's fairly quick and straightforward. There's only 4 episodes, 4-hour-long episodes of it. So I don't think you'll get tired of it. Sorry, just painting a straight line. Can't paint a straight line and talk at the same time, it would appear. So yeah, the Bodrum house, and there's room to make it your own. Actually, the Bodrum house. You can see what I've done to mine, but you can. I'm painting over the tail of this bird. I'm going to have to come back over it once I've finished, but I thought that might happen anyway, so I'm not overly concerned about that. Yeah, as I was saying, there's room on the Bodrum house to make it your own, to put your own flowers in wherever you want them, really, in pots on the ground, wall baskets, choose your own colours. The world, as Delboy said, is your lobster. So I'm really interested to see what you make of it. The basis of it is palette knife. The walls are palette knifed, which makes a nice change for us, because we're usually all about the detail. I am going over this, but I'm trying not to sort of go completely over him. Just get your canvas filled in, get some colour on your canvas, and then from then on it's easy. Mr. Fix-It's got a swirly chair, one that goes round and round, and he's going round and round now, so I presume he's quite bored. He has had his dinner though, so he's not starving and bored, he's just bored. We had a lovely Sunday dinner, didn't we, Mr. Fix-It?
Beautiful as usual.
It was beautiful. We were so stuffed after we couldn't move. It's like a sort of Christmas Day type feeling. And for once, actually, today, it hasn't rained. We're on June the 9th, 10th, I don't know. 9th. And I think this might be the first day in June that we haven't had rain. Might be the second. But it's not really summery weather. I mean, yesterday we had to put the fire on in the middle of the day. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just as easy to do these edges when you've got the right colour in your hand on your brush, because it saves you having to mix it again afterwards, which was a right pain. So I think, anyway. Just going to spray that a little bit. It's just, if you just give your canvas a quick spray with water, it does help it go on more smoothly. Don't overspray it, because 2 things will happen. One is you won't get enough paint down on the canvas, so you'll have to wait for it to dry and then go over it again. Or if it does stay on the canvas, it will have a problem that is called underbinding, in as much as it doesn't bind enough. So eventually the paint will fall off. So don't overspray your canvas, but a little bit of spray can facilitate the first layer going on. So we'll go back up to the top here. I haven't actually sprayed this bit. I think I'm going to have to leave that edge there because I've got my pattern piece stuck to it and I don't want to unstick it, so I'll have to come back and do that at a later date. Just have to remember, and I never do, that it's primary blue and neutral grey, and when I come back to it I just know, I'll say to myself, why didn't you make a note? You know, I'm always saying, why didn't I make a note? But I never do. It'd be all too easy, wouldn't it then? I'm just going to have another little bit of paint. So it's quite a nice sort of mild motley background. It's hard to make out, which is good. That's what we want, because it's very kind of lost in the background. It's the Liquitex grey that I'm using. I don't often use the Liquitex Professional Heavy Body. I think I bought a set of them and this neutral grey came with it. It's actually quite a handy colour. I'm getting to quite like using grey. Let's see if I can see where the birdie's head is. It's right there, I think, and his beak's right there. As I say, I'll come back in when the background's dry, completed and dry, and re-establish these lines for our birdie, etc. I think the easiest way at the moment is just to sort of just go over them a little bit. And these feet as well. Nearly there, I think. I'll do this bottom bit as well. Where does that come in? It comes in there. Yeah, that's it. So just give that a second to dry whilst I just paint the bottom part of this. So it just needs to be there in between the fence posts, because the fence posts will be coming down over here. As you can see, I got it wrong. It's easy to get it wrong. I think painting takes a little bit more concentration than people think. It's very nice when you're just painting for yourself and you can actually get lost in the moment, in just doing the painting. But I've noticed since I started talking about what I'm doing, it slows me down, and I get lost in the actual painting more often. Truly lost. So I think it must take a bit more thinking about than we think. Do this bottom bit here and up as far as I can get up here. There we are. Right, so let's see if that's dry or not. This bit here isn't, so I'll just pause now and dry this off and come back and we'll do the leaves. Well, I'm glad I took a little pause there because I just flipped it over to see where I was going next, and I remembered that I was going to do something that I'd forgotten about. What I'm going to do is use my little moon maker, these little round foam spongy brushes, and I'm just going to put some sparkles of white or light blue or light grey, because you can see here it looks like light is hitting it, and I just want to give that impression. You won't see the whole circle because we'll have leaves over it, but you might hopefully just get that idea that there's a little sparkle of colour. So let's have a go. Now with these, they're really easy to use, but what you need to do first is pop it in your water pot till it's really soaking wet. Wring it out in your hand and then bring it over to your towel and just give it a really good squeeze so there's not any loose water left in it at all. And then I think I'll go for white first off because that's really going to show up. And the more we do, the more we'll probably, although it is very dry, I was going to say pick up some background paint, but I think it's too dry. So make sure that you've got your entire sponge covered. Mine's quite old now and it's not really round anymore, but it doesn't matter for this. It's perfectly fine. And you just twist it one way, twist it the other, and you get these little sparks of what will hopefully look like light. It's going to add a little bit of blue into that mix, put it on the plate, swirl it round, and just put some of those in. I don't want too many. It's just to give the idea that, as I say, there's something sparkling in the sunlight. I have to imagine the sunlight, as I say. And put a little bit grey in, see what happens with that. That's perhaps a bit dark, so I'll add some white to that. I've got quite a lot on there, really, more than I would like. And that will be right against his red breast there, I think, which will look quite nice. That's probably ample sufficiency, I would say. In other words, enough. Stop. It's so easy to go on and on, but stop. So you don't want that to dry out because once it does, it's for the bin. And they're not very expensive. I think you get 3 different size ones for £1 or £2 or something. But it's the hassle of going to buy one. So look after your things and just drop that in the water and get it down. And it'll be fine by the time that you come to wash it. Okay, right, so we're on to, they are dry. They don't take long to dry because there's not very much paint involved with them. So right, we're on to the leaves, which once again I want to be very loose, just so as you can look at it and you've got the idea that it's leaves. I'm not doing this branch or this one because that's not what this is about. It's about the bird. It's all about the bird. So let's see what I've got. This cad yellow lemon hue, and it is very zingy, very, very zingy. So I think that's probably what we're looking for, that sort of zinginess. So I'll put some of that out. We've also got our white that we can make that even brighter with. Let's have another look at this. What else have we got? We've got some greens. I'll put this one out. Now this is a brand you haven't seen me use before. It's called ARA, and I'm not even sure if you pronounce it ARA or ARA or what. It was on Jackson's website. It had a really, really good write-up, and so I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And for some reason, I chose this colour, which is a colour that I don't really use. So I don't know why I chose it. But I also bought white in this brand as well. And I must say, I've been really pleased with the white. Look at the little nozzle that you get to squeeze the paint out of. So you don't get, with the abstract, you put it out and you get a wad that you could paint 100 paintings with. With this, it's really fine, and you just squeeze out as much as you think you want. And then this is another one that I've just bought to try out. It's Jackson's own brand, and it's not the professional one. Jackson's do professional acrylic, which has really good write-ups. But this is a studio acrylic. Okay, so I'm back again. I hope I've got rid of that tickle in my throat. It's so annoying, and I know it's annoying for you. It's annoying listening to people cough. So let's hope it's gone. I've had a drink. As I was saying, this is Jackson's Studio Colour, acrylic colour. It's in the Jackson's catalogue. They've got, Matisse and Golden and this ARA that I'm telling you about, and all sorts of paint that come with an excellent stamp. This one comes with a good stamp, so it's not as good as excellent, you would think, but it's cheaper. And so I thought, well, I'll give it a try. If I like it, I'll gradually fade out the Sennelier and gradually fade these in as funds permit. So we'll give that a go because we need something sort of olivey. And this also has a really nice little narrow nozzle that you can just squeeze out what you think you need. And it's got this tiny weeny little replacement cap, which is much easier than like the golden caps. They end up on the floor rolling around. They're a dash nuisance. So let's get started with this then. I'm going to use my 1/2 inch angle shader just to get going, see where we're going and what we're putting in. Down this side seems to have the most vegetation. I'm just going to bring this white over here so it's more convenient to work with. I've got white on the brush, so I'm just going to go straight into the lemon yellow. Pick some of that up. And it just seems to be, it's leaves. It's loads and loads of leaves over each other, pointing different directions. We'll get these put in and we'll come back with a different colour. We get some areas dark. See, now we're really pretty much losing the background and the sparkly things that we put in, but I'm trying, when we get to this side, it's less dense. Don't put them all at one angle because leaves just don't grow all at one angle. By the time you get to the robin, they're starting to thin out a little bit. It's quite dense down here. I'll just carry on with this colour and then we can come back with another colour. So I'm basically just placing my brush down on the chisel edge and just pressing down. And the vegetation is much more sparse on this side. So I want this really, really loose. It's just basically about the bird. It's not about the vegetation or anything. I'm just giving the brush a little bit of a twist on occasions, just to alter the shape of the leaves. It's helping the yellow stay vibrant, that we're putting the white through it. because as you know, yellow doesn't really play nice on its own. This is just beginning to fade away a little bit down here. So don't be too prissy with this. We will be when we come to the bird, we'll be much more prissy. I'm going to leave that in the water because it's still got blue on it from the background and it's beginning to pull through. Looks pretty clean now. So let's move on to the olive colour. And I'm just going to mix a little bit of white through that and a tiny bit of yellow. So what I'm basically doing is greying down the yellow with this olive green colour. Shush, Bob. So I've mixed up some of that. I don't know if it's enough. It doesn't really matter if we can't get the same shade again. So just going in, putting leaves in over and around the ones that we've already put in. Some a little more than dots really because they're looking straight at us. Others we can see more detail on. I think I've got a lot of mine side to side and I don't want them all in that direction. Let's go back over them and put some vertical ones in. So this robin really looks like he's sitting on a fence and behind him there's this sort of hedge. A hedge, I would say, is probably what it is. So don't get too carried away on this side. I think the hedge must have sort of petered out and I'm going to have to mix some more of that up. So we'll need some olive, some yellow, some white. But it doesn't really matter if you don't get exactly the same hue. Well, it doesn't matter at all, in fact. This is a little bit brighter than we've got over there. That's fine. Just keep twisting your brush as you put your strokes down. I don't really want this separation here. I need some coming over that fence post, I think, and here. I don't like the fact that there's a line around it, around the objects, because you're looking behind it, you would still see right up to the fence and the bird. So I have to go over the edges so it looks like it's sitting in front. That's what I'm trying to say. Got there in the end. So a little bit of yellow to that, brighten it up a little bit round his face, round his red breast, and his undercarriage. So there we are. So now we need some proper green, which is this green here. just to make sense of it all, really. It's looking nice. It's looking like sitting in front of a hedge on a fence, which is, after all, what we set out to paint. So we're into this proper green. So I'm going to put this on and have a look and see what it looks like. Might not be what we're after. Oh no, I think that's nice. Yeah, it's kind of making sense of the whole thing, really. That's good. So I'm putting quite a lot of this on because I like it. I like it with the other colours. It's working really well. So this is this ARA whatever brand, Artists Acrylics, and as you can see, it's a heavy body. It's holding its own there. It hasn't, so it's on the heavier side. But as soon as you put your brush into it, it's like a fluid. Really lovely to work with. I really do like them, but I must tell you, downside is they're pretty flipping expensive. So I don't really want to develop a taste for them if I can avoid it. But you know. Anyway, I'll keep you up to date with any paints that I do get. But at the moment, the one that's amusing me, tickling me the most, is the Jackson's Studio. For the price, I think it's great. Don't forget to come inside on the the objects, because otherwise, like I say, it won't look like you're sitting in front of it. So we virtually covered up our circles that we made, which is a shame, because I quite liked them, but I've done it now. You can paint around yours if you want. You know, this is, look on mine as being a trial piece, and paint around yours if you want to leave them in, because they're quite pretty and they gave a nice effect. But I like that green in there. It's very busy, but you know, so are hedges. Hedges are very busy. So it's quite a sort of simple, quick way of achieving what we wanted, I think. There's nothing complicated in this. There is nothing remotely complicated in this. So for the very, very, very new beginner, have at it, as they say. Pick up your brush and have a go. I mean, so far we've used one brush, this half-inch angle shader, and quite a limited palette. And I know I'm telling you about different paints that I'm trying and whatever. That's just for interest's sake. You don't have to have these brands of paint. Use Liquitex Basics, or you know, use whatever you've got. If you've only got craft paints and you're not painting because you haven't got any of the posh brands, no, don't do that. Try with your craft paints. You might not get the real depth of colour. I mean, you can see in here, there's a lovely depth of colour in there. And you might not get that with your craft paints. But if you mess around, you just might. Because if you add white to some colours, it'll bring out a vibrancy. So if you put it on, you think, well, I can't even blooming see that. Try adding a bit of white to it. Not masses, just a bit. And then try it and you'll see a difference. So there's ways around. You don't have to spend fortunes. I know I spend a lot of money on paint. I know that. I'm very guilty of that. But you absolutely do not have to. And you see, all I'm doing is I'm twisting. Can you see I'm twisting the brush like that in my hand? And each time I twist it, I put it down so it'll be at a slightly different angle each time. And that really is the most complicated thing we've done today. And yet I think you will agree that the outcome's pretty good. It's pretty nice. I'm going over the fence post because it's in front of the hedge. And we want it to appear that way. So this is slightly less dense over this area here. So you might get to see some of the sparkles. Just not so heavy-handed over here. If you have a look at it and you want to add more, of course you can, of course, always. If you have a look at it and you think I've made a right Charlie of that, paint over it. Get some white paint out and paint over it and start again. You know, I've done it, we've all done it. You get to a stage and you think, I just can't rectify this. It's just, I've lost it. You know, I can't pull this one back. Or you've spent hours and hours and hours on a painting and you just can't, there's no way of pulling it back. Just let it dry and paint white over it. Just pretend like it never happened. Because really, who's going to know? Who's going to know that you did that? I mean, yeah, your husband might. My husband would, because he'd hear me moaning and groaning about the original mess that I'd made. But if I didn't complain about that, he'd never know I'd done it. And I'm guessing that, you know, whoever you live with or whatever would never know it. So what the heck? Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody. I'm very much liking this green. I mean, I said to you I bought it. I have no idea why I bought it because I never use it. And then now it's coming in so useful for this. Don't forget to just keep twisting your brush as you go. And there we are. I think we're about there. Let's have a look in the monitor. Yeah, I mean, does that not look like a hedge? Does that look like a hedge, Mr. Fix-It? He's nodding, you can't hear that. It's going. So, right, I think we've reached the stage where we need to leave it to dry and then come back and do the birdie and the fence posts. So that'll be a job for tomorrow. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. It's been great. I've loved it. See you. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to our what I really intend to be a quick little painting of this robin perched on a fence in front of a hedge. I've actually, there's a whole day elapsed between when I was talking to you last and now, and I've been out and about today and I've been paying particular attention to hedges. You know, almost to the point of pervery, really. But I have, in my head, I've settled that the hedge that we did last night is a pretty good hedge. I'm quite happy with it. That I've seen hedges today that look like that. I've even seen hedges today that look like that with a fence around them. So I think we're bob on with regards to that. So let's have a look and see what we're up against today. See, it's our little robin that we'd sort of bastardized really onto here. I might paint his feet as they are. I don't think they're quite right, but that doesn't really matter. So we've done the hedge, which looks quite hedgy. And the only thing I've done since I left you is I put the thing back on and transferred the outline of the robin because I'd painted over it with the old hedge. So I think today we'll make a start on the fence posts. That might be all we get done today, I'm not sure. I don't really want to stay on too long because it's dinner time and I haven't had my dinner. When you look at I'm actually going to take this off here now because I've only got one. I only printed one picture out and it's this one. So I haven't got anything to sort of reference. when it's folded back on itself. I don't know how I managed to do that. There we go, that's near enough. Right, so looking at the fence posts, you expect them to be brown because they're wooden. But when you actually look at what they are, not what your eyes and your brain are telling you they are, they're grey. They're obviously very old, what you call silvered wood when it gets to this stage. And I think the base colour is grey. And I think what we're going to do is white dry brush over the top. This one's got a little bit of green mould activity or lichen, whatever, something on it. And that one has too, a little bit. But the first thing I think we need to do is get the grey on. It's slightly perhaps lighter on this edge here, I think. So we'll just make that slightly lighter grey, just so it's just not a blob of colour. And we've got, we've got something to work to when we putting the dry brushing on. So I'm using grey. It's same as yesterday. It's a Liquitex Professional Heavy Body Neutral Grey. It's 5 on the grey scale, so it's right in the middle of the grey scale. And I'm going to put some white out because, as I say, I think these edges are just a wee bit lighter. They're catching the light more. So all we have on the palette so far is grey and white. But I think we'll be okay. Did you see that? That's Mr. Fix-It. Come on, show them the hand again. It's ever so good. I think it's a back scratcher. I don't know. It came from my parents' house when we sorted all their belongings out. But it comes in very useful because Mr. Fix-It, in the evening when we're relaxed, he sits an arm's length and that away from me. So if I want to prod him, I just pick that up and prod. So yeah, you didn't need to know that. I know you didn't. So I'm just gonna. Oh, here he is again with some of the blooming. Honestly, he's obviously bored today. This looks to me like a car aerial, but it's got a magnet on the end. I mean, do you really need to see this? No, I'm sure you don't. Right, let's use the aforementioned palette knife and just mix up a little bit of the grey with the white. So we've got some sort of mid-tone going on here. I don't think there's enough there to do all of the posts. So just mix another little bit up. So this is going to be the lighter colour for the edges of the fence post. So there we are. When you mix your colour with your palette knife, take your old towel and wipe off what's on there and stick it in your water, because otherwise it sets on it. Then you've got to use another palette knife to scrape that palette knife, and it all gets a bit tedious. So let's make a start. I mean, I'm sort of laughing at myself really, because I told you last night definitely I was going to try and be less detailed, looser, whatever, and look what I came out with, a blinking hedge that's really tight. But never mind, doesn't matter. Genuinely does not matter. If you do yours looser, great. It seems like I have trouble achieving that.
Depends whether you prefer a tight bush or a loose bush.
See what I mean? You see what I actually have to work with? I've been to the dentist today. It's never something you really look forward to, is it, the dentist? But in actual fact, I kind of, in a way, was looking forward to it. Because, well, I don't know if you've heard the story before, but I had a denture, right, in my bottom teeth. And when I went into hospital last November for that horrible operation, I took my dentures out because I know that, when you go under anaesthetic, they always make sure you haven't got dentures out like that. So I took my dentures out before I went, my denture, and I thought, well, I'll just cover it in a bit of tissue, because who wants to be looking at a denture, and leave it on the table and be there when I come back. And in the meantime, nobody's going to look into the room, see this flipping denture and think, oh. So I did that, and when I came back, when I woke up from the anaesthetic, I was looking at the table where my denture was. No denture, no nothing. So what had happened was the cleaner had come in, thought it was an old tissue, picked it up, put it in his bag of rubbish, off he went. So that was the end of that. So from November until now, I haven't had my denture. And I couldn't really get it because the operation that I'd had was on my nose and I couldn't breathe. So if the dentist put his blinking drill and stuff in my mouth, I would have suffocated. So I've had to wait until my nose has healed sufficiently that I can breathe through it to get back to the dentist. And now it's done. Now I have my denture in place. So, yeah, although going to the dentist isn't generally something I look forward to, I kind of was today because now I feel like I can smile. So that's my story today. That's why I was out and about looking at hedges, as you do. It is funny though when you're out and about and you look at, really genuinely looking at things. I was looking, well, both myself and Mr. Fixit were looking at the sky today. Mr. Fixit was looking at the sky as he was driving along, which is also always slightly worrisome. However, we're in one piece. And we were looking at the cloud formation, saying, you know, you would never paint that. The way that natural clouds form, if you actually painted them, they would look so unrealistic. But I took some photographs anyway, because I think sometimes when you're doing skies, it's cloudy skies at any rate, it's quite good to have some photographs to go from, see what nature does. Yeah, the other thing that happened today was I got up and I had a look. We've been varnishing the old barn, which if you haven't followed that series, I recommend really that you do. It's a nice series. I enjoyed doing it. It's over about 10 parts, 10-hour-long parts. So it's a fair investment of your time. I appreciate that. But at the end of it, you will have a lovely painting to sell or hang up or whatever. Yeah, so I got up, looked at the old barn, see how it was doing, and shock horror. I mean, absolute shock horror. It had a white bit, like a dot, a very noticeable dot in the sky. And, well, of course I blamed Mr. Fixit. It wasn't me. So, I said to him, what have you done? What have you done to the old barn? Because he varnishes all my stuff. I haven't done anything. I put the varnish on it and this spot appeared. There had been an orange spot there before, I should tell you, that I'd sort of wanted to get rid of, but I just thought, no, it's just going to be there for life, I think. So I'd sort of come to accept that. So I was mortified by this, how am I going to fix it? Oh, what a tremendously big job it is, blah, blah. And then when I came back in, Mr. Fixit had put a cloud over it. And I'm really proud of him. It's a really good cloud. Do you want to fetch your work over here, Mr. Fixit? And we'll all have a marvel at your work.
Technical terms, pentimenti.
Yeah, well.
Still damp, so.
Yeah. So here's the old barn.
So just right there.
I'm just showing people the old barn.
There you go. Let me zoom out. And then
okay. Yeah, there it is. That's a picture in its entirety. It's looking out from this old boxcar. So the picture is framed by this old boxcar. And I'm really fond of this picture. I really enjoyed doing it. I think we've got a bit of time lag going on.
It's when you move too quick.
Is it? All right. Can't keep up with me. So the hole was there. And look at the cloud that Mr. Fixit has put in. Isn't that good? He's obviously listened to things that I've said. And he's put that cloud in, which got over that problem for me. And it's got damp varnish on it, so I'll hand it back. Yeah, that was a series that we did on on YouTube. Now I'm just adding some more grey to this because the front parts are, as I said, slightly darker. Need my palette knife. Stick the handle back on. Pretend it didn't happen. If you are mixing paint up with different colours, whatever, then try and get into the habit of using a palette knife, because if you mix paint, and I do it, we all do it, with your brush, you get too much paint in your brush and it pushes up into the ferrule, as I was telling you yesterday, and it's not good. It's not good for your brush. I think that's suitably dark enough, suitably darker than the front. So let's put a bit on and see if we're happy with it. The other thing to tell you is when you mix paints like this, try and push them all into one mound. That way then it keeps wetter longer. Full of tips for you today, people. Full of tips.
Full of teeth?
Full of teeth today. It's going to take a little while to get used to, actually, but it's worth it. So let's just see if this is that enough dark.
Now your bite really is as bad as your bark.
What's got into you today, Mr. Fix-It, then? You being cheeky?
The sun's been out. Sunstroke.
Sunstroke. You wish. Yeah, that's darker. That is enough darker. So it's just the same down the edges. I could actually still see the edges on the fence posts. I just couldn't see the robin, not well enough anyway. So this is just grey. It's pretty much grey out the tube this now, to be honest. It's probably still got a bit of white in from where we mixed the first colour, but it's pretty much grey out the tube, which, as I say, is neutral grey number 5. A lot of the companies, Golden, etc., do a neutral grey. You don't have to buy it. Don't feel it's one of those colours that you have to buy, because you can mix it with black and white. It's nothing more complicated than that. But go steady. If you are doing that, go very, very steady with the black, because it has what they call strong tinting qualities, which means that a little bit goes a long, long way. Phthalo blue is another one. If you've ever tried to mix a colour with that, you put phthalo blue in and it literally swamps whatever else you've got there. So it's worth just getting to know what your paints do when you mix them. It's also quite a good idea when you first get paints to, you can see the colour, you can squeeze it out, you can see the colour, you know what colour it is, but you don't know how it's going to act. Now, a lot of colours are pure pigment, so they literally are what you're seeing. Other colours are made up of a few pigments, and when you mix that paint, some of the pigments that are in it may give you a result that you weren't expecting. I have a particular problem with the Snellia Abstract Burnt Sienna. I think it's the Burnt Sienna one. It's got something in it that's green, I think. And no matter how I mix it, it has this sort of green cast to it. So I think how they've made theirs has involved some green somewhere along the way, or a blue and I'm mixing a yellow into it, something like that. But it's you get to know after a while. But It's a good idea to just get your new tube of paint or pot of paint, mix a bit of white into a little bit of it, see how it tones down, and mix a little bit of yellow into it. And that'll give you a good idea if there's any other colours lurking in the background that you need to be aware of, really. I was telling you yesterday that I'd bought some new different sorts of paint just to try them out, really. And this is a brand that I bought. I only bought one colour. I seem to buy the weirdest colours. I don't know why I chose this colour, but never mind. It's called Oxide Brown Light. I don't necessarily think I use this colour a lot, but I obviously thought that it was a suitable colour to buy and try. It's by a Swiss company, which I always like to see because they make precision watches, so I reckon it can make precision paint. And I think it's pronounced Lasau. And it, once again, comes in this bottle and it's got a lovely little top that you take out, squirt out a little bit so you're not wasting paint. If you've put out too much, take the whole thing off, palette knife it back in, as long as it hasn't dried. Don't do it if it's dried. You need to be, needs to be not having not been out very long. So I just noticed actually these fence posts are getting taller the further we go. I didn't notice that last night. So I might try some of that new Lasau on the robin somewhere because it's quite a nice brown. I mean, maybe that's what I had in mind. I do a lot of birds and stuff.
Sounds like a rusty brown.
It does. It does, doesn't it? Red oxide would make you think it's rusted. Mind you, it kind of looks like that, doesn't it? Rusty colour.
Indeed.
When I got my last order from Jackson's, it arrived with colour charts and information charts on different paints. That should be illegal. Can I just say that? It should be illegal. Because you read it and you think, oh, I need that. Oh, I need that. I need that. I mean, you don't need it. But they just tempt you. They're marketing people. Just too tempting. Stop it. Might just get these fence posts done tonight. That might be all we get done. But it won't matter to you because it'll all go out as one.
It's interesting they were even a short distance out of the perspective.
Yeah.
Apart because them fence posts are getting taller.
Yeah, they are.
Because they're getting nearer to the point of view, I guess.
Well, perspective is something that I haven't touched on in any at all of the videos that I've done, because I made sure that whatever we do, we're doing it from a tracing, which means we don't have to think about the perspective. But it's a good point that Mr. Fixit's made. We're obviously standing somewhere here. I'm off camera here, but this side. It keeps going fuzzy, and it's not because I'm moving too fast.
It's because I'm processing those other videos.
Oh, right, okay.
My brain powers
diminished.
Being used for other things.
Okay. But you can see, I mean, if you held a ruler there, you would see that quite a difference. Look at the angle of the ruler. But fortunately, we don't need to bother with that because all we're doing is copying, transferring. Transferring sounds so much nicer than copying, don't you think? So I don't want to put my brush in the water to do it. I'm just rubbing off any paint that I might have left on it, which can only be grey, so it's not the be all and end all. I'm just going to...
We will be doing a video on perspective.
Yeah, I will do a video.
It's important to know.
Like, your light source and perspective are the two fundamentals, I would say, absolute fundamentals. You really, really need to know where your light source is. Otherwise, you haven't got a hope in hexam of getting your shadows in the right place. If the light's coming this way, down here, then this part of the robin is going to be the brightest. And this part, because it's 3D, is going to be the darkest. Same with these fence posts. Where the light is coming in from here, this is the light bit, and this, it's not turned away from the light, but it's not in full light, so it's a darker shade. You don't need to concern yourself really at the moment. We're just doing this supposedly very light, very loose painting, but you will need to know sometime in your career. You will need to know that. Right, so I've just picked up a little bit of white on my brush, and I'm just literally kissing the canvas with it, just to give it a little bit of what we call dry brushing. And it picks up the texture of the canvas. You remember I said this was a very cheap canvas from the pound shop, in fact. And to be honest, I'm not seeing too much different with this canvas than any other. I would be quite happy to use this, forevermore, really. They're okay. So I'm picking up a bit of white and then I'm brushing off most of it. We'll just go down these edges. And there's a little bit of pressure on that brush, but not very much at all. And because I've got the angle shader, I can actually get right into the angles here. So pick it up like this, like you would normally, but not as much. And then go to a clean part of your palette and just wipe most of it off. And there you are, you can see that we've still got enough to do this texturizing down here. And I think that's working. I hope you can see it. Can you zoom in, please, Mr. Fix-It? There you go. Now I'll move this over here so you can, there you go, you can see that. So I've got paint on my brush, but very little on the chisel end. And just start. No pressure hardly at all. And this technique is called dry brushing. You can, of course, put more paint on and it would still be dry brushing. That's all right. I quite like these little happy accidents, as Bob Ross would say. The great man. Yeah, that's nice. It looks authentic, I think. So now we have to deal with the fronts of them. And they've got a little bit more texture on them, so maybe I need a little bit more white paint. I'll put some white on here, although to be fair, it's a lot of green on here. We'll dry brush it with white first. Now, isn't that a good effect? I'm sure you would agree. Don't panic if you get a bit like that. You're sitting a couple of inches away from it. When you look at it from further away, it will look quite realistic. I need to go up there. That bit out. So there, it looks, it's perfect. I think it's what I'm after. So that's good. The angle shader is very, very useful for getting into the angles, would you believe? This is a good technique to practice. It's a good technique to know. Get you out of a tight spot many a time. Sometimes you can glaze things. Glazing is another technique that I'm quite fond of. Supposing you've put something down and it's just a bit too bright, just a bit too white, just a bit too something, and you're not altogether happy with it, you can get something called glazing medium. You mix your colour paint through it and paint over the top, and it'll change it as well. I really like that actually. I think that's nice. What do you think, Mr. Fixit? I'm doing all right.
I do.
Oh, that's okay
You're on the Olympic fencing team next.
then. It'd be funny if they had an Olympic art contest, wouldn't it? You've got 2 hours to paint something, paint a portrait. I wish there was more telly programs about art, people doing art. I love to watch. Quite a bit of paint on there this time, but that's fine, that's okay. That's fine. I think it's enough. I'll ponder on it. This has got some green on it. It's got quite a bit of green, so I'll put some green on it and have a look and see then if I need to add any more white to it. So I'm just pinching the colour out of my brush in my towel. So I don't really want to get it wet, because once you get it wet, it's hard to dry brush. Now the colour green I'm going to use, once again, is a bit of an oddity. I bought it because I was buying the whole set of St. Eliot. So it's called Burnt Green Earth. It's a real muddy sort of green, but it's perfect for this. You could get something similar to this if you used any of the greens, really, not phthalo green, light permanent, any of that, and mixed a little bit of raw umber and then a little bit of white to bring it back. So you're not stuck because you haven't got this exact colour. You could just use plain olive green, but I'm planning on layering my greens. I'm just going to put a little bit of this on first.
It looks like a very mouldy green.
It is that's exactly what it looks like. It's strange, isn't it? I don't know why they've made the colour.
Mouldy mossy green.
Yeah. So this is just sort of streaked down it. And I may very well have to come in with some olive green just to kick it up a bit. Isn't that nice? Oh, that is nice. So even in this tiny little painting that we're doing, it's an 8 by 10, and it was intended to be just quick and not slapdash, because no, we don't do slapdash things. But it wasn't intended really as a teaching video. It's just I'm videoing it so as you can keep me company when I'm doing it. This one's only got a little bit down here. But even in that, we're learning some tips mixing and what angle shaders can and can't do, and dry brushing, which is that is something you need to know. You need to be able to control your paint and your brush to get dry brushing. It's a good thing to know. It's got a little bit down here too. Okay, so far so good. So now I'm going to use the light olive green. It is not light anything, it's olive green. So put a little bit of that out. And it has a nice little plastic cap that just fits on, and it's just easy. So just nip that other paint out of my brush, get rid of it as much as I can, and just go into that. This is a much softer paint, easier to deal with. I'm just going to put little bits on. Yeah, I like that on top of the other green. It's was worth the effort of layering, I think, of layering the greens. I think all we're going to get done tonight is the fence posts, but I have another project on the go, you see, that I have to do videos for as well. I am a busy bunny. I've also got commission on the go. Man alive. I think it's worth taking a bit of time to get these the way we want them. Quite a lot of paint on here. I'm just being very cautious about the way I'm applying it. I'm going to put some over this white here. Not that I don't like the white, because I do. I think it'll show up nicely. So the question is, does this one need any on, or does it look? It hasn't actually got any on in the picture. I should. Oh. Yeah, I've got that on. Look. But should I put any on here? I think it would look more complete, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go back to the darker green first. It's a problem with dry brush because it's dry brushed on. As soon as you've put it on, it's dry. Right, so I'm back into this green earth colour. I'm just going to add a little bit to this one. It just looks a bit odd not having any on it, because I don't suppose it's been renewed, because it's still silvery, it's still that old silver wood. I think that's fine. Wipe that off. Go back into this olive. I'm going right on the edge. I've got my chisel right on the edge there. Coming down. Right on the edge. Now you won't be able to do that with an ordinary flat brush, because it'll be like that. So you'll end up over here somewhere. And if you face it like that, you'll end up there. So if, I've said it before, but if you can afford an angle brush, the De La Rowney ones, these System 3 ones, they're not that dear. I can't remember how much they are now. $3.50? Yeah. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I don't think $3.50. Or put it this way, if you want to be painting and 350 is too much for you,
Get another hobby.
get another hobby, because painting is a dear hobby. It really is. I'm just going to attend to that bit that Mr. Fix-It pointed out because it looks a bit strange. I haven't got enough paint on the brush. This is the thing that you need to get the hang of. How much paint is enough to dry brush and how much is too much? It's a really fine line. You'll learn it, you definitely will. And the other thing is, it's about the pressure that you apply it with. So you're always better off to go too light, not enough paint, whatever. I think that's resolved that problem there. I think we're all right now. Right, so there we are. We've done our fence posts. That's my day's work done. It's not. I'm putting my brush in my water now because I've finished with that now. And I'll probably see you tomorrow, but in your time it's going to be a couple of minutes. So I'm off for the remainder of what we had for Sunday dinner, which was delicious. And I'll see you tomorrow or very soon. Thank you. Bye. Hi everyone, back to what's now part 3 of this little robin, which was supposed to be just a really quick little thing. And I wanted to do it really loose so it would be a quick little thing. And of course I can't do anything loose. So it's ended up that we've had 2 parts. We've had the hedge and then we had the fence posts, all of which I think looks great. And now we've got to tackle the bird himself. So all I've done since I saw you last was put some transfer paper over, put this image over, which was attached then, and gone round the outside of the robin, and then gone, I don't know, you can see that now. Yeah, you can see I've just put lines of demarcation of the big broadest colours. I've put his eye in and his beak. So I think we're ready to go. I've taken this off there now because I really need to see him, see what colours he is. And interestingly enough, just at first glance, I know he's called a robin redbreast, but actually when you look at his breast, it isn't red at all. It's a sort of ochre orangey colour, but we'll get to there in the fullness of. First thing I really want to do is kind of establish this outline down here because I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. Because it's difficult to see against that hedge, and his tail similarly, and this part here. So that's where we're going to make a start, and it's a very dark colour, this up here, that runs along by the side of his red breast. So I'll just put some black out for that, and I also want some brown. Actually I might use this brown. I'll put some of this out because I've never used it yet, and I'm itching to. Oh, I can't get it out of there. Mr. Fix-It, please, can you fix my paint? In the meantime, let's just make a start with the black from just under his beak. Just wet your brush and stroke it on the edge of your container. That way then it makes the bristles more receptive to picking up paint. So we'll just go into the black. And it starts, as I say, from just under his beak. And it comes down there, and there's just a little sort of thicker bit of black there. And it comes down and it changes into that greeny sort of colour that we had, that earth green. This is a cheap acrylic. It's Peebo one. And I wouldn't have said its coverage was amazing, but it'll do the job for us. Now the other bits of black are inside his tail there, leaves a sort of brown bit. Let's just
Then
turn.
come in.
Oh, look at that. Thank you, Mr. Fix-It. It's very nice of you. Now, where was I up to? I forgot what I was doing now. Doesn't take much. Yeah, it's this inside part of this tail. I have to come back over this with another layer of black. Use cheap paint at your peril, folks. It always turns out to be a bit of a nuisance. So this is black pretty much all around here. And there's just a sliver of brown that comes up there. I'll just leave that like that. That's actually not what the finished thing's going to look like. But I don't want a solid line of black because it's difficult to put colours over a solid line. Your eye just automatically sees it. So it's a similar sort of thing here. These are his flight feathers, the wing feathers. That comes up to there. And then once again it's this sort of stripy type business of his wing feathers. Oops. Seems an odd choice, black, but that is what he is, so who am I to argue with Mother Nature? Well, I'm absolutely not anyone. That looks like it's a bit longer than that. I haven't gone right to the edge, to the end. Tail. There we are. And any more black? Well, there's a line down here where his wings are lying up against his body. I'll just pop that in. It's good to have it in so we know it's there, but don't worry too much about it. We can paint up to it and over it even if you've put it in too thick. I think that's basically all the black I can see apart from his eye. And we'll put his eye in now. If I had a small brush, I would definitely put his eye in. Yeah, here we are. So I've got a choice of two. Both are teaser, both much used. I wonder if they still sell these, because if they do, I think I'll get another pack, because I really use them a lot. And one day, eventually, they won't go back into the proper brush shape. And then I'll be lost. Right, so using a small brush, just fill his eye in. Try and be quite careful about it. Now you might get an idea why these canvases were the price that they were. I think they were £1 each. £1 each was Fix-It, yeah. Which is really cheap for an 8x10 canvas. I mean, it really is. But when you come to put little details like this in, you realise why it's quite cheap, and it's because it's quite bumpy. But for our purposes for this, it's fine. And for all practicing purposes, for all practical purposes, it's fine. So I was just going to show you how I load my brush up. If this is your first time watching me do anything, well, several things. We don't normally chat this much. And this is how you load a little brush up when you want to do details. Because the paint is heavy bodied and the brush is titchy, the brush hasn't got enough power to push the paint where you want it to go. It's just too heavy, there's too much resistance. So get some water on your brush, mix it into a little bit of your paint, which will thin the paint and allow you to pick the paint up. So just swizzle it, see the way I'm doing it with my fingers, turn it round and round and round, and then as you come to let go, keep twisting and pick it up off the palette. Now you have a nice pointy shape and lots of paint in your brush. Saves you having to go and reload your brush all the time. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. There's a tiny little bit under his beak, just sort of underneath it. That's probably enough actually. So she doing it again. Yeah, I think that's all right. So that's probably, I would say, I was finished with the black, although around these top flight feathers does look like there is a little bit of black there. I might actually just put that in. We can always paint over it if it turns out that we didn't need it. So it sort of comes down here. Like that. I'm not seeing any more black on there at all. Okay, that's good. So just wipe your paint off. It's easier if you wipe your paint off before you put it in your water. Keeps your water a bit cleaner for a bit longer. I know that inevitably it will get manky, but and these little ones you really can wash off completely in your water. So do that, dry them off and leave them horizontal. Leave them lying that way on. Not this way, not that way, but that way. Always, always dry brushes that way. If you dry them that way, the water comes down into the ferrule, into this metal bit, and it compromises the brush. Ultimately, it'll undo the glue that's holding the shaft on, and you'll end up with just a shaft, a ferrule, and some bits of hair, which is not what we're after. If you do it that way, it has a danger of making the hairs within the ferrule, the bristles are within the ferrule, too wet for too long, and it'll splay them out. So dry it that way, and then we won't have any of those issues, and your brushes will last for longer. Okay, let's go. Let's get some grey out. Now, we used grey quite a lot on the fence posts, so it's not a new colour that we're introducing. Same colour that we've had before. And here's my little 1/4 inch angle shader. Very, very, very useful brush. So I'm just going to have a look and see where the grey is the underneath part, and it's pretty much everywhere, to be honest. So let's get that on, and then we can think about how we're going to shade it and which other colours come on top of it. Pretty much all of this here has a grey undertone, and it makes it much easier to work if we put some colour on the canvas first before we start trying to shade and all that jazz. I have got it transferred onto here, but I'm still looking at my reference picture just to try and work out where the grey goes. It comes down here where it meets up with his red breast. So try and do that sort of stroke here, so we haven't got that solid line that we were talking about. And it comes down here again, try and not make it just a solid line. There's a bit of white. There's quite a lot of white on him really, but it's not. It's on top of the grey. I'm just going to have to go over that and trust my eye when I come to putting the white highlights in. Any more grey for anyone? Any more for any more? Yeah, I think down here is quite grey. We can get his outline in, that will be a great help. It goes over into, try not to leave a line between your hedge and your robin. There are grey bits in here, you know. So I'll just put some in fairly willy-nilly. Actually looks like the whole outside of him is grey. Mustn't forget to put his feet on. It's very easy to do that actually when you're painting birds, that you just forget. You just forget they haven't got any feet. So I'm just doing the opposite here when I'm biting into that black. Just putting the strokes that way on over it so we don't have a distinct line. There's a lot of green here, but I think it's actually over the top of the grey. See what you think when you do it. What should we do about the reference photo, Mr. Fix-It? Should we just put it up on my Facebook page, or?
That's usually the best place to put it, I think.
Yeah. Okay,
but
so if you...
There's actually 2 reference photographs, of course.
Well, no, yeah. No, it's just that, really. That's what I've used all along.
We should take a photograph or a scan of that and put it on your Facebook page.
Yeah.
That's the way forward. So
my Facebook page is Miss Acrylic Paintalot. Miss Acrylic Paintalot's group, I think it is, actually. So if you want to pop over to there, get the reference picture, and then hop back onto YouTube, you'll be fine. That's the way forward, I think. While you're on YouTube, you could always subscribe. That would make me very happy. It costs you nothing. You don't get any emails or anything for subscribing, but it does make a heck of a difference to me into how often I pop up into people's feed. So if you could please subscribe, it would be great. These wings are pretty green. I'm quite happy with them being that colour. I'll just put a little bit in there. This coming down here is getting to be quite a dark green with grey in it. So I don't know which green to use. I think I'll go for this one that we used before, burnt green earth.
Because if anybody has any trouble finding the photograph, they can always message you and we can...
Yeah, absolutely. Leave a message on the...
Email it or post it somewhere. Or...
Yeah, definitely. If you have any trouble with anything, if you haven't got a colour and you want to know a substitute for it, or anything, you didn't catch which brush I was using, just message me. Either myself or Mr. Fix will get back to you, and it's no trouble, so don't worry. So I think that still needs to be a little bit darker. So I'm just going to take a touch of the black and add it into there. Maybe even a little touch more. And I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Next to nothing. Yeah, I think that's probably quite a good colour. Let's go with that. So this is, once the black's petered out, this is the colour that takes over. It's quite close to that grey, but it's not. It's not that grey. Just wanted a little bit darker, I think. A little bit more green in it. Green it up a little bit. That was a lot of green. Yeah, that's a good colour, I think. That'll stand out quite nicely. So what you guys all been up to? Haven't been anywhere today. I've been here all day. I'd like to say doing housework, but you know me better than that by now. I haven't really been doing housework. I've done a little bit. I mean, we don't live in a pigsty. Yeah, all right, we do. No, we don't. But it is probably one of my least favourite jobs in all of the world. Right, okay, that's fine, because that's going to have a coverage of white and olive green on it. I think around up here it's quite dark. But you sort of need to make your brush strokes in the way that the feathers are lying. And if you look at your reference photo, you'll see that quite clearly which way they go. Looks like he's just been to the hairdressers, this guy. Not a hair out of place.
Like Bob.
Yeah, Bob's been out today. He's been to the hairdressers. He's now looking very sharp. He's very good at the hairdressers, which staggers me because he's usually so afraid. He's afraid of everything. Oh, this little bird looks so cute like that, doesn't he? He really does.
At this point, perhaps you should point out that Bob is actually the dog.
Oh yeah, Bob's the dog. Yeah.
Uncle Bob.
Yeah, no. Bob is the dog. Yeah, no, we don't generally transport relatives into the clip joint, which is what it's called. Although maybe we have relatives that would like to go to the clip joint. I think there's a little bit on his beak. Actually, I'm just going to do that with a slightly finer, this brush that we cleaned before. That's a bit thick. That's fine. So it's just on the top edge of his beak. It's a darker colour. And it goes back into his face. Don't make the mistake, people, of placing the beak outside the head. You know, you've got a round head and then you put a beak on it. That's not going to work because that's not the way birds are. It goes back onto the face a bit. So make sure that you always do that. And that's got little bits of white on it. And a little bit of light brown, but that's all we can do with that for the moment. Right, following down, so I've got that. These are all greeny. These are all grey whitey, that's greeny. A little bit of brown around. Okay, let's go for the little bit of brown around because I'm dying to test my new paint out. Let's just clean that out. It's just a little brush.
It's quite a large nozzle, so don't get squeezy happy.
All right, okay. I don't need much of it anyway, to be fair. I'm almost frightened to pull it off in case. No, it's all right. It's just me that's afraid. So let's squeeze a little bit out. That's very liquidy, isn't it? Very liquidy. And this is the this Studio Lassalle. I'm saying it that way. I think that's right. If you know better, let me know. It just looks lovely, doesn't it? But, you know, looking nice and painting nicely are two different things. So let's just see what it's like. Just somehow managed to get that all over my thumb, which doesn't look very nice. Oh, well, I'll have to stay there now. Right, so back to the 1/4 inch. And I'm just going to do this, this down here, and there's a line down there as well. And I think that's the right colour. Might be a bit bright for us, but we'll have a look. It just comes down here. It's slightly thicker than that. So just press down with your angle shader just slightly more and you'll get a thicker line. Yeah, that's all right. I don't know what's going on here. That's never right. Doesn't look like that. And just also on the top edge of the wing feathers, there's just a little bit of brown on there. I'm going to have to resolve this because that just really doesn't look right. Does it? I don't know. Well, I'll leave it for the time being because I did transfer it and that is what I got when I transferred it. So I'm going to put his red breast on next because he's looking a bit freaky to me. And what I'm going to use is raw sienna, which is that colour. And I'm also going to use some Liquitex cadmium red medium. I'm going to try those. I'm not saying they're going to be bang on right, but I'm just going to give them a try and let's see if we can get a good colour for his breast. Right, sorry about that. I couldn't help it. So let's mix these cad red and raw sienna up and see if we can get something approximating this robin's red breast. Wow, that card has a lot of tinting power. I think we've talked about tinting power before, haven't we, on this video, so don't need to go into that again. I'm wondering if I think that's too red. Too red. A bit more rosy in it. Red really, this card, all the cards really, they have incredible tinting power, and I just added too much of it there to that mix because I want it orange, not red. So now is that the right sort of colour? I need some yellow in that. I think yellow is required. So this is primary yellow.
Just putting it there so people can see the colour.
Oh, right.
You're talking about a colour that people can't
All
see.
right. Well, that's the colour we're aiming for. And I think it's a bit more yellowy than the colour we've achieved. So I'm just going to take part of this off. If you've mixed up a lot of colour and it's not right because it still needs something added, just take a bit of it off because you don't really want to be trying to make all of that the right colour, and you'll waste a lot of paint that way. So just take a bit of it off and we'll mix the yellow into that. Let's see where we get to. Yeah, I think we're getting better. Getting better, but not quite there. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. So that turned out to be raw sienna, cad red and primary yellow. I'm not, however, saying that's the only way that you could achieve this colour, but it's the way we've done it. So I'll put my lid back on that. And I'm pretty much just going to block it out. There are feathers on him, but I'll come back later on and put the feathers on. So I'm just pretty much just going to block it. I was going to paint that. It's already been done. Someone's done it for me. Oh dear. It's not easy being mad. I mean, it's not, but you just kind of get used to it. Right, so as I say, let's just block this out. And I think we're going to need two goes at this. There's a little bit of room there where his beak goes. So I'll just leave that like that because I think it's sort of whitey. Yeah, I think we're going to need a couple of coats to get over the hedge factor. Try and leave his eye out of it, try and not catch his eye. And you see again, I'm using my brush at this angle and I'm going into it this way, which is the way that his feathers would go into it. Yeah, he's looking a bit more like a robin now. Hooray! It comes down here. Might just dry this with a hairdryer when I've got this on, so we can go straight in and give him another coat, so he can be drying in preparation for us. What's that? Foreign body. Just this little bit round his eye to do. There we are. He's beginning to look better, isn't he? Actually, in real life, this is a much orangier colour than you're seeing it. It's come up really quite red on the screen. Excuse me a minute, I'll just dry what we've got. Okay, that's that dried. I'm just going to give him another coat, so he'll be ready then for us just to feather him up. I'm just biting down into that grey with my brush. I mean, there are, feathers to put on, sort of whites and greys and what have you. But this will give us just a little bit of a head start on that. Comes back here like that. I've still left that tiny little bit there of his beak, which I think needs to be white. I'm just going to go around his eye quite carefully. I mean, obviously, if you take a sudden shake or something and you paint over his eye, it's not the end of the world, it's just a bit of black paint. But try not to lose the position. There is a little bit there, just above his beak, actually. It goes up like that. Okay, so I think we've got his red breast in. As I say, there's shading and whatever to do, but let's start. So let's see if we can deal with his tummy region. I probably want some white on first, and then I need to start putting the green on. I'm not sure that this is like a typical robin. I think robins are brown, really. But I'm doing what's ahead of me. I think he looks nice the way he is. So let's just carry on like that. Yeah? You want to say something? No? Right, we're trying to make this relatively loose, you will remember. So let's see if we can achieve it. My betting is no, but you never know. This is quite a white area here that stays white. Stays white, sounds like washing up liquid. No, washing powder, I mean. And there. And then it sort of comes down here where we've left a bit here for it anyway. Curl down here. And there's just flecks of it coming off into here. So now, in order to achieve that, I'm just using the toe of my brush, as we talked about before, and just some light pressure. Just bring these feathers down. Try not to be too, every quarter of an inch or something. Just bring them down where you think they look believable, credible. I'll just put some over this section too. Just light markings. Okay, so let's move on to the green. And for that, I'm going to use this Jackson's olive green. It's just about the right shade, I think, for what we want. Save us having to mix green. if you haven't got this green, if you haven't got an olive green at all in your paints, don't despair. It's one of the easiest colours ever to make. You need some black and you need some yellow, and mix it up and you'll have olive green. If it's not light enough for you, put a bit of white through it, but that's basically what it is. It is black and yellow. So wash that white out as best I can and pick up some of this green. I think olive green's probably my favourite colour of all of the colours. I really like it. So this just sort of bites through the grey into the red breast. Not masses of it. Enough so you know it's there. And then all of this is pretty much as we've got it, really. Dark a bit of green there. It's a fairly white bit there, so trying to not put too much paint green over that. And we come down here and it's pretty solidly green. There's a white section there that I've kind of just painted over, but be alright on the night, I think. Once again, just bring some of those over, just casually, like that. Now then, what's going on up here? It's a kind of a darker grey, but it does have some green in it, so we'll pay reference to that. That's a very white bit there. And there's a white bit there as well. So just ignore it and paint around it, which will make it stand out a little bit more. So yeah, okay, that's not too bad. Making progress. Right, I'll leave that to dry whilst we go onto his wings, which I can actually, oh no, let's do something on his head. So he's got a sort of dark grey and a lighter. I'll put the lighter one on first. It's just his feathers coming back. So just pay attention to where the direction of the feathers. And remember, this is supposed to be loose, so we're not having a heart attack at this stage. We're just painting feathers. That's all we're doing. So I think I possibly need a little bit of white in through that. It's going on top of a very dark grey and it's not standing out. So we'll just mix a little bit of white through that. Yeah, that's better, I think. Lovely. Looks a bit like a punk rocker, doesn't he? Now then, he's got some dark grey in there, which we can accommodate because we've already mixed up that dark greeny grey. It's just about dry, but might get something out of it. Give it a quick spray, see if I can bring it back to life. Oh yes, look at that. I'll just put some of this through here. Let's break it up. Now we've got the orange in, we can come down into there like this with that sort of stroke. Okay, Okay, right. So his leaves, sleeves, yeah. Yeah, bird's well known for having leaves. His wings are this bit here, and then let's have a look at this. There's this bit and that bit. Have I got them marked on? Yeah, I think I have. And then there's this longer bit that joins up to this section here. It's a question of which colour do I want to do first. There's black and there's green. I think I'll do the green first. I'll just pop that in there. And for that, I'm going to use my dagger brush, because you get really good fine lines with that. Sorry, Mr. Fix-It, I sprayed you with the water. Impromptu shower. Right, so we're just gonna, there's some very fine lines here, there, that I'm probably gonna have to put the outline of this bird in, because they seem to go right to there, actually. Is it impossible to draw something loose, to paint something loose? Yeah, for me, it blooming well is. Right, so they're fine, they're all going to the back. Might have to restate those when we've put the black in. Let's see what it looks like when the black's gone in. Might not be able to see them well enough. That definitely is black in there, so trying to avoid the lines we've just put in, let's put some lines of black in. No, this canvas is making it very difficult to get details in, so I'm going to have to put plan B into operation, which is paint it all, where's my 1/4 inch? Paint it all with the green and then put the black in on top, which is fine, that'll work perfectly well. This goes down to that, comes up and here. So you can see we've got the shape is right. And this one, which just comes here. Like that. And then there's this, which follows on from the feathers that we were putting on up here. It just follows on round. Just going to leave a little white line between them so I can see what's going on. Right, this is dried now, so let's go back in with a slightly lighter olive green. Just mix some white up through that Jackson Studio green. Give us a nice light white colour, because we've got quite a bit of light down here. And flecks of it as well through his tummy. And possibly some light bits up here. Now there is a white band there, but it's not as white, it's not as clearly defined as I have it, so I'm just going to break it up a little bit. Yeah, that's good. Now I'm going to go back into the brown. Just going to put a little bit of that, which Mr. Fix-It's looked up and tells me it's pronounced Lasco, which is fine, that's fair enough. Oh, don't argue with that. I'm just going to put some of these in and see if it can take it. I'm not so sure it can. No, I'll leave those out. So if you make a mistake, just get a lot of water and throw it at it, and usually comes off. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so I'm not too dispirited by that. Let's come back into his red breast and see if we can add some feather type featheriness going on there. I think I'll just add a little bit more yellow to a little bit of this, just so we've got a different colour, so we can make it look like feathers. It's quite an orange colour. See how it looks on top of this one. So round by his beak, got a little paint on there. Round by his beak, there's just little yellow orangey markings there. And above his beak too. There. There's a very bright white spark in there. And then it just sort of just do as we did the hedge. Drop your brush down, and that's a feather mark. When you've done that, pick it up, just pouncing against the surface, just to make some texture on him. So there we are. I hope you can see that there's a bit of featheriness going on his breast, and it looks quite convincing from where I am. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of black, tiny bit really, and I've still got orange on my brush, so it's not going to do any major damage. I'm just using the toe of my brush. I'm just going to bring this in round here, so don't like the sort of square line that's left. The solid edge, I should say. Don't like the solid edge that's left. Okay, so that's so far so good. Now his wings. Right, well, we've now got the green on, although I think it really could do with another coat. So I'll give it another coat, and then we'll come back and put the feathers on that. So what's this? I think just plain straight up this. I don't think it's that this paint's got bad coverage, because I actually think it's got quite good coverage. It's just we're asking it to cover a lot, you know, with this this hedge that we have. And I could just do with a little few more bits of that green up into there. He just looks a bit like he's just had a fright. So I'm just going to integrate this into there, because this photo really has got a lot of green on it. I'm not saying he has or he hasn't. I haven't really looked at a robin really up close and personal, but yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm just going to have to dry this. I'm sort of forced to dry this if we want to progress. Hang on, just before we do, I'll just put his legs in, and they can get a dry as well, because they're probably going to need a couple of coats. I'm going to do it with my little Arteza brush. Sounds like Malteser, doesn't it? Little Arteza brush and that Lascaux brown, which is the right colour. It'll need some black lines on it afterwards, and I've got to actually make up where one of them is. So looking at my picture, so it comes down. It's got long feet. I'm not convinced that this is right, but that's what it looks like on the thing. And it's got one toe sticking out here. And that's it, that's one foot. One leg, should I say. Shows you what fine lines you can get. So you've already got one layer of paint on this. And so it's accepting the next lot of paint much more readily. Okay, so now I've sort of got to decide where his other leg might be, and I think it's sticking out just here. So I'll just make a claw. It's the best I can do, and then it just seems to go up and join where the other leg comes from. It's obviously where Robin's legs come from. I'll just put that there, make it look hopefully a bit more credible. It will have black over the top of this, don't worry, it's not going to be just left like this. Okay, right, now I do need to dry. Just wash my little brush out. There we go. Right, I'm just going to give this a quick dry, it'll only be a sec. Okay, so we're all drying, ready to go. The bit that's troubling me the most is this bit here, because that is never right in a million years. But looking at our picture, and the line that I've transferred is not right. So I just need to beef up this bit here, and I just want to do it before all my black dries up on me. Let's give these a bit of a spray, see if I can keep them alive. So I just want to come in just sort of here and put some black in there. So it just isn't looking right. I think that's better. Yeah, I think that looks better. Okay, so several things we've got to address. The details, the flight feathers are actually on his wing here. His hair, well, on top of his head. The feathers up here look really like he is a punk rocker. I'm not so happy with that. So I think I need some grey to go back in that, and maybe some lightened up olive green. I need to sort out this bit of his beak, and his eye seems to be a little bit smaller than I'd like it to be. So let's make a start with his eye anyway. Just loosen some of this black up, and just do it the way I showed you to do it. I'm just going to go around the outside and make it slightly larger than it was. Yeah, okay. I think that's fine. That looks better. It's just a little bit on the small side. So next I'm going to use my 1/4 inch angle shader, and I'm going to have a look at these feathers on the top of his head. Just going to put a little bit of grey in very short strokes. Not too regular if you can avoid it, which I know you can. I'll just leave that now to dry, and then we'll go back in with the green and put some of that over it. But in the interim, let's put some of these details on. I'm so sorry, guys, I can't help it. And they too are black. Now, when you use the dagger brush, it's a kind of similar thing to using the liner, script liner, or a small brush. The tip of this is tiny, and that's what you're going to be depending on. So make sure you've got it wet, and make sure that you've slackened down your paint a bit so it can actually load it up properly. Have a look at it before you start. Make sure there's not a blob of paint on the end. If there is, just wipe it off. And we'll make a start with these details here. I hope you've got a less shaky hand than I have. That's probably the highest. Sorry guys, these are very shaky. Okay. And again up here there is a sort of demarcation line there. I'll deal with that in a minute. I'll put these little flight feathers in first. There's only a few of them there, and then there actually isn't any on this bit here. So I'll get, oh gosh, they're really, really shaky. Shaky lines. What a shame. So I'll just get my angle shader, and I just want to put that in and put this line in there. So a little bit of black. It's almost dry brushed actually. So I'm just going to put that in and just drag a bit of black. A bit more than that would be good. Drag a bit of black up there, like that. Actually, it's quite rounded. So yeah, like that. And there is a black line down there. Once again, using the chisel of our brush. I think my paint's drying up, which is not helping my cause too much. And then there's a black line that comes down here, and then it sort of goes up a bit into, it's just obviously the way he's got his wing folded. But that's all right to me, that looks okay. Yeah, okay, right. So it's got tiny little bits of yellow on it, and I think we'll add those. I think we'll be all right with the angle shader. They really are tiny little flecks, these. There's just a little fleck there. Sometimes it's these little flecks that just bring a bird to life. Where else has he got any yellow? It's very light down there, but it's not yellow. Check. I'll just reinstate this yellow bit there because that is quite yellow. On his face. Let's drag that out with a dry brush. Okay, so now I want some white to finish his beak off, and this wing here, which I don't think I've actually put in yet. Right, I'll put the wing in then. Because it's difficult getting details on a wing that's not even painted in. And I think that comes down like that. To there. Okay. One second, guys. Sorry, it's just it needs 2 coats. And there is a lighter bit there, so I'm just, with green still on my brush, I'm just going to pick up a little bit of white, and it marks where this where this flying feathers are, flight feathers even. Let's pull that up a little bit there. It's a bit of dry brushing on the edge of that, of there. Right, okay. What now? Oh yeah, the white in the corner of his beak, which we've been saving for ages to do. So it is just that little bit along there. Brings it into his face. And just draw a line along there, just so you can see. There's just a little bit of shading up there. Okay, and there's also a spark on his eye here. And of course he has got a dot in his eye, the reflection of where he's looking at. That's fine, that's good. Don't go overboard with that dot. It is just a dot. Just a dot. I'm liking this breast now. I don't know if you, yeah, you can see it. It's toned. It's looks like it's feathers. It's looking okay. So, oh, we're getting to the end of this. I'm just going to pick up my angle shader again and just put a little bit of green into there. It's just not standing out very well against the foliage. That's all right. That's fine. So his feet then. Let's do his feet, and then I just can't help myself, just do something in there. Oh, and I was going to put some green on his head, wasn't I? Forgot about that. So we've put the grey in, and now we're just coming back with little bits of light green. We'll just break it up, make him look more credible, as it were. Still not utterly convinced by him. By his head. It's the head department. What happens if I mix brown with that green then? You'll get a nice colour. Get a different colour. Yeah, that's better, I think. I want it to look more like feathers than fur, which is what we had. Okay, we're getting there. I'm tatting around now, which is never good. I shouldn't tat. I wasn't going to with this painting either, I really wasn't. I can't help myself. He probably needs some white in him now in that region, but let's have a look at his feet. Let's see what his feet have got to say on the subject. Now it's black again for this. I'm just going to bring it down here a little bit. It's more convenient for me. So load your brush up, and then I've got a great bodge of white on my hand, which I don't really want to put onto my painting. Just going to sort of give him a bit of shadow on these legs, so the underneath part really, where it might have a bit of shadow, bit of detail. And same with this one up here. Comes up in a sort of a knuckle, knee, whatever. I don't know. Up there somewhere. There's a gap in between his toes. Well, it's not a gap. It's darker. Yeah, okay, that's all right. Right, so back to, well, does his head. The perennial problem of his head. Yeah, let's have a pause while I think about it. Right, I've had a good look at him and a good think, and it hasn't been another day. It really was just 2 minutes. And I'm looking at the hair I've painted and the hair, his feathers, heaven's sake, the feathers he's got, and they actually do come, the more round, the more this shape, whereas mine are more that shape. So let's address that now and see if we can't fix that. Then I'll feel a whole lot happier about this picture. So I'm going to use some of this dark green, mud green earth, whatever it is, burnt earth. Ooh, not that much. So that's why I'm getting rid of my phasing out, shall I say, my Senneliers, because you get so much in one go. Right, let's see then if we can make these sort of fold down. Sweep them back. Give them a proper shape on top of his head. I think this is looking better already, actually. Not looking better. Yeah, it is. It needs another colour on top of it, obviously, because they're, well, I've just got that. I'm just going to put a little bit of white in there. Don't panic, folks, that'll dry back, and we're going to put another colour over it anyway, so don't worry about that. Grey, we need a bit of grey, a bit of quite dark grey actually. I'm just going to touch the black into that. Whoa, not quite that much. Yeah, that's a good grey. Not far off the grey we've got in the bottle, to be honest, so don't know why I bothered. Let's give him a bit of grey down here, because he has got some grey here. He's also got some grey here. So this is kind of a final look at what you've got and look at what you should have and just rectify it. Some grey down at the bottom here. Yep, I think we're all right with everything else. Just going to make some lighter olive green colour up for this part here, because that's a real feathery part and I haven't really paid it that much attention. So let's put some more of that out. Need some white in it, otherwise I'm never going to see it. Need a bit more green, otherwise I won't know it's green. That's nice. That's a good colour. So just some real feathery sort of ideas. So I'm just sort of curving my strokes as I put them on. Acrylics, guys, are all about layering. Layering. So you can see this bright white that when I put on, I thought, oh my goodness me, it's all but sunk into the background now. So just need some green on there. This olive green is a good colour for that. and just follow around. So sweeping down instead of up, which is what we were doing earlier, which resulted in him not looking very much like a robin. Okay, well, I think pretty much that's all we can do with regards to the robin. Maybe slightly light a bit there. So I don't want much paint on my brush at all. And I just want to place it there, then wipe all the paint off my brush and just pull it up, because it's the edge of that wing. Just be able to see that that's the edge of the wing. Okay, well, there we go. Mr. Robin sitting on his fence, looking quite happy with the world. Nearly, not quite, you know me. You think you're finished, then you're just not. It's just got a little white line right there. Let's tamp it in. Yeah, okay, I'm done. I'm done. That's Mr. Robin on his fence. I hope you like him. I enjoyed doing him. I know it was supposed to be quick and it kind of didn't turn out to be, but you know, that's me, sorry. So there you go. I hope you have a go at painting it. Hope you enjoy painting it like I did. And I'll see you again very soon for another fun painting session. Thanks very much.